Voting is considered one of the most important rights in America. The ability to elect the officials that govern us is a fundamental element of democracy. The most important of these elected officials is the president. Voting on the office of president is something that many Americans consider to be their civic duty. However, with the current voting system, many people are asking the question, does their vote really matter? In this speech, I am going to examine the problem with the Electoral College in America and explain what we can do to fix this. I've studied the Electoral College over the past couple decades and observed its effect on presidential elections in the US. And in this speech, I am going to explain the origin of the Electoral College, the problem with it, and how it should be changed. So, to start off, what is the Electoral College? Well, when the founding fathers created the United States government, they created a way for the president to be elected. By doing this, they allotted a certain amount of votes to each state. The votes are called electoral votes and are based on the population of that state. So if we look at this image by National Geographic, we can see that the states with higher population, such as California, has a lot more electoral votes than a state with a low population, such as Montana. The electoral vote system is winner takes all. So the candidate that receives the majority of votes within that state takes all of the votes that are allotted to it. This, however, was not always the case. Originally, the founders designed it so that electoral votes would be distributed based on regions rather than entire states. But as time went on, more and more states have gone to the winner takes all system. Now only Maine and Nebraska give states based on or give electoral votes based on a regional basis. The main problem with this system is that it is winner takes all. So whether you win by one vote or 1 million vote, in the majority of states, you will receive all the electoral votes for that state. This completely negates the minority voice in the state and allows the potential for anti-majority outcomes. What this means is that a candidate has the potential to win the popular vote, but lose the electoral vote. This has happened a couple times in the last 20 years, once being in 2000 when Al Gore won the popular vote, but George W. Bush was able to win the electoral vote. It also happened in 2016 when Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, but Donald Trump won the electoral vote. We look at this map by 270 to win. It shows the breakdown of electoral votes between Trump and Clinton in the 2016 election. All the red states went to Trump and all the blue states went to Clinton. And the lighter color the state, the more contested it was. As we can see, Trump won the majority of the lighter colored or contested states, which allowed him to win the electoral vote and lose the popular vote. This is because in the contested states that Trump won, all the votes that were designated for Clinton became invalid and irrelevant because Trump received all the electoral votes from that particular state. This is the reason that the electoral system is very biased toward battleground states. Now, what this means is that most states in America are very partisan, meaning that they always go one way or the other. For example, California always votes Democrat, and Texas generally always votes Republican. However, there are some states, or battleground states, that can go either way. These states have a relatively balanced population and can be swayed one way or another with different elections. And these are really the only states where, in the Electoral College system, an individual vote actually matters. Because if you live in a partisan state and are voting for the minority, all the electoral votes will go to the majority winner, so your vote will essentially be meaningless. This also means that there is no incentive for political candidates to campaign in partisan states, because usually they have already won or have no chance of winning. And winning more of the minority will not benefit them at all because all of the electoral votes will go to the majority candidate. So why was this system implemented? Well, the founding fathers originally didn't trust the popular vote, and this means that they believe they had a lack of information and intelligence to properly make an informed decision relating to a presidential election. They also thought that the Electoral College would balance the discrepancies in size between states. As Alexander Hamilton put it, a small number of persons, selected by their fellow citizens from the general mass, will be most likely to possess information and discernment requisite to such complicated investigations. Now, this is some pretty old school wording from one of the founding fathers, but what he's essentially saying is that he believed that the majority of the population of each state would have the intelligence to make an informed decision. However, there was a minority in each state that would be uneducated and so unable to make a decision, and by implementing the Electoral College, they would amplify the voice of the educated majority and disregard the voice of the uneducated wrong minority. Now, while this may or may not have worked in the time of the founding fathers, it really doesn't work anymore because with social media and constant online news, we are always up to date on what is going on politically and do have the tools to make an informed decision. So it really doesn't hold much water these days. So if this is the case and the Electoral College is so outdated, why hasn't it been changed? This has a lot to do with partisan politics. Over the years, many political candidates have suggested that the Electoral College benefits one party or another and have opposed to it getting changed because they believe it will hurt them or their party in some way. This may or may not be true because dynamics change over the years. Also, people say that counting all the votes in the country would be somewhat of a daunting task, and this is true to some extent because it would create more opportunity for mistakes and fraud by the increased volume of ballots coming in to the country. Due to these facts and many other ones, the issue of the Electoral College has been largely ignored over the past century, except to update Electoral College numbers on states as the population increased or decreased within those states. So, what can we do to fix the problem of the Electoral College? Well, the obvious answer would be to implement a popular vote, or simply count up all the ballots in the country and award the presidency to the nominee that received the most votes. We choose governors this way, which govern individual states, so it seems like we should choose the president, who governs the same country, in that way as well. This has received bipartisan support in the past because many people consider the Electoral College to be out of date, but no one has actually got the support they needed or made the move to officially change the system. We have seen more action towards this lately, namely in the 2020 election. According to New York Times, Elizabeth Warren, a Democratic presidential candidate, has called to eliminate the Electoral College based on its bias towards small states. And while she does have the right idea here, she's wrong about the specific bias towards small states. Although this may sometimes be the case, the example that she has been citing, the 2016 election where Trump won over Clinton, actually didn't have much to do with that because Trump won the majority of the large states and Clinton won the majority of the small states. So it was really based on different dynamics. We've also seen House Democrats recently push to eliminate the Electoral College due to the fact that in the last 20 years there have been two elections where a Republican or a Democratic candidate has won the popular vote but lost the electoral vote to a Republican candidate. And according to National Review, there is some merit in this argument because currently voter distribution in the battleground states does favor Republicans. However, this can change on a yearly basis. So, to sum it up, the Electoral College is an outdated tradition that goes against everything democracy stands for. It makes individual votes meaningless and is untenable in modern society. So please support your local politicians in their effort to change the system and make your vote count.